They tell me I felt myself floating, and then they look really confused. And then I ask them, I'm like, well, is there something more? And then they tell me, yes, my body, I know my body's in the chair and I'm holding on to the side of the recliner, but I know I'm separate from my body. So I guess it's their consciousness. And I tell them, yes, that's exactly correct. I go, so that was your psychedelic trip. Then they tell me these like otherworldly things. Like I saw relatives that were deceased. Really? I saw ancestors. They saw where they went on vacation maybe the year before with somebody that was no longer with them. What else? They were flying. It's just different stories. So kind of, if somebody was making up fairy tales, I guess it's kind of sounds like that. But I know from having to experience we do an experiential treatment as part of our job. Our doctor believes that we need to be in our patient's shoes to understand, to explain to them, to keep that setting sacred for them, and that way we can more understand what they're experiencing. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I was out of my body. I saw myself just turn into lava, and then reality swallowed me up and spit me flying in the air of Colorado. Really? Yeah, it was different. We went to Colorado for my husband's birthday because the week before I tried ketamine for work, because I wanted to have a good frame of reference. I heard that helps. And it does with most psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD, stuff like that. So that's where I was trying to think the whole time while the ketamine was starting on my experience. I would like to be in Colorado. I love the snow. I love the mountains. I like the way that it felt. Yeah. And that's where this journey took me, except I was flying to get there, I guess. Didn't have any fear. I wasn't scared. And the whole time I remember like questioning and overthinking at the time, like, how is this possible? Because I know I'm in a room in San Antonio, Texas, in a recliner, just sitting there, but what I've read in clinical trials, what I've read by speaking to people that are researching this in several universities, doctors, people that also do DMT and all the other psychedelics that have been doing this for years, they're like, oh yeah, that's you, that was you disassociating and stuff. And if at any point it becomes scary, that's usually, as far as ketamine goes, is their ego death. That comes sometimes with higher doses, but I can kind of tell where the patients are because they start telling me I'm in a void, or I'm lost, or it's just black, or I see myself, and then myself just faded away into tiny little particles. And that to me is like the sign, oh, okay, well, you had your ego death. And I explain to a lot of people what that is. And then they understand, like, oh, okay, like, you can see it kind of switch in their head, like, oh, I know what happened to me. Mm-hmm. It's definitely different. I would compare it to DMT. However, I would say like our consciousness separates, and it gives us, it's not a cure like the other psychedelics, but it's definitely a tool for us to be problem solving and to compartmentalize, our problems and our issues. And it definitely helps a lot of people. I've seen it, I see it every day at work. Yeah.
Now, how often are they supposed to take ketamine? They do these treatments. Is it something that in order to cure PTSD that they need to be on it quite frequently, or is it just something they can?
I would say from what I've seen that it's more of a maintenance thing. It's not something that cures what you're coming in with.
I see.
But it's definitely a tool to make things a little bit more livable. They get to see a different perspective from their psychedelic trip that they're having. That things, for example, if there were an assault victim or rape victim, they get to see, oh, well, this wasn't my fault,
Right.
Or with a family that has lost loved ones, they're like, oh, well, I know that I'll see them again because I saw them. And exactly how you explained, like they're on the other side of the veil. So they're kind of with me, but I can't see them and I can feel them. And if I do these psychedelic trips, then it kind of reassures them that the other side is not scary and it's not bad.
Mm-hmm. And have some patients then described it as a veil, almost like as something's being lifted and they can see things differently?
Not so much a veil. They describe it as another place. So I guess to them maybe like another dimension, but not, because it's so different. They're like, I was with these groups of people. These people, you know, my grandparents, they passed away when I was little. They were there to welcome me. I got to see them. We have people that lost a family member to a suicide, to a murder, and they're like, oh, I finally got my closure because this person came to see me while I was under ketamine. And they can process things a little bit better. It kind of gives them closure.
Very interesting. Okay. Now, going back to the beginning when you were saying that you watched them on video.
Yes.
To me, if we were to look at this from a scientific point of view, the watching them on video would show that their body was still in the chair, right?
Correct.
They're still connected to the body. And so science would start to say, well, you know, everything that they're experiencing is happening in the brain. But what you were saying was that something happened on the camera. So the orbs started to come in.
Yes, and it often does. Not with everybody. Not everybody has this. The people that are profusely crying, and it's not because of fear or that they're scared of the disassociation. It's kind of like they're interacting with somebody or something, because you can see them with their arms up, you know, they're trying to hug them. They're talking or holding somebody's hand. So their arms are up and about. But it's always when they're profusely crying, like where you have to stop and you're kind of taking a breath when you're crying with a lot of emotion.
Right.
These lights started appearing. And at first I thought, like the air conditioner kick on? Is this dust particle? You know, like I said,
Right.
I try to go into everything skeptically until they prove me otherwise. And over the years, this has just proved otherwise. And I don't have an explanation for it.
Wow. That's amazing.
So they'll be crying. And then the first time I noticed it, it's like, I guess like in the middle school videos, they're showing you what kind of like sperm looks like, but they're just these little, or like tadpoles. They're like these little bitty lights with a little tail, like squiggly tail behind it. There'll be 2 or 3 and then 5, and then they'll be like engulfed in these things.
Really?
And it stays around their chest, like it stays above and around the patient. Then this lady had came in, another patient who lost her daughter to suicide. And she's like, my daughter was talking to me. She was talking to me. She was hovering above me. I tried to help her while she was alive. I didn't get the mental help for her while she was alive. She wound up taking her life. I found her. She's like, I have 2 other kids. I need to try ketamine to process my loss, because I want to be a good parent to them and love them because they're still here. But I have a great loss because of my eldest child took their life. And I'm like, okay, well, we do their session, and this lady was just telling me, I saw her above me. I felt her. And then that night, I'm like, what is that in the camera? I was looking at when I watched her, and this ball of light, maybe the size of a green tennis ball, came out of her chest, like her solar plexus area.
Really?
And it hovered. So it pretty much looked, I'm looking at the chair, I'm looking at the patient sitting there. She's crying, her arms are outreached, and it's like somebody has a flashlight from her chest pointed toward me at the camera, like, hey, don't be, it's just, I don't have any explanation for it. This is not dust particles. This is not, I don't know, like something in the air, any kind of aerosol. It's different,
So is it picked up now I'm going to ask you a couple questions here on the camera. Are the lights off in the room?
They are.
And then it's picking up like an infrared, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Because I see it in black and white, but when I'm looking at them, it's kind of like if you're seeing a deer or a cat, how they turn around and they have like the white in their eyes. It's kind of like that. Okay. And I know from having my own security cameras in the house, when we first got the cameras, I remember something telling me, to look in the hallway. And I just 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night, I just turn on the camera and I'm looking in the hallway, and sure enough, that's what I see. And it's like they move across, and it's almost like they blink. It's the weirdest so that's what
thing.
I see. They're like if I had to describe somebody in a room with a couple of fireflies, how they come and go, but they leave a little trail. That's how it looked.
Yes. And then we saw this where the camera was set up. there was a section that there was a like a wall and a corner, and there was something that went up the wall, and it honestly looked like a cockroach with a tail, almost in a way. Okay, so it kind of moved like it was on the wall. It was big, and then it kind of moved off to the side. And my wife and I freaked out about it. We were scared, and I was like, "There's no way we have cockroaches in our house, right?" And I put out traps. It was right. The wall was right by a closet door, and it's in between two bedrooms. Okay, and these lights would constantly flow from one door in that hallway to the next door, and then they would move out of that door and go to the next door, and they would keep doing that for maybe, I want to say 10 to 15 minutes, and then they would go away, and then they were done.
That's about how long these clips are. 10 or 15 minutes sometimes, and then it's like nothing was there. But I know something was there because I can rewind it. I can physically go back and view it again, and it's the same thing. And we keep our temperature the same, so it's not anything to do with dust. We clean everything. We're in a medical office. And there isn't any kind of aerosol being sprayed because there's a patient laying in the room. I really don't have explanations for it, And then, that's like my first part of the information. But then when I go in at the end of the patient's psychedelic journey on ketamine, that's when they tell me, oh, somebody that passed away visited me. We had a conversation. I got closure. Or, for example, I have another patient that tells me, I met my grandkids that are 2 generations from me, my great grandkids. He's like, but I don't have any kids. And these 2 spirits, beings or people, children, keep coming to him. And every single time, he's had maybe 10, 11 sessions with us. And every single time he sees these children that go to him and tell him, where you're at, we're descendants of yours, you're my great grandfather, you're my grandfather. He's like, but I'm confused because I don't have kids. He's like, I'm planning on having kids with my wife because we just got married. And this guy's a doctor. He's a cardiologist, and he's like, this totally conflicts everything that I believe in because I believe in science. I'm like, welcome to my club because, it's kind of hard unless you experience it yourself. It's kind of hard to describe, Yeah. He's like, I don't know what to say. He's like, they just come and we interact and we play and they're small kids and they tell me, he goes, and they're there with me, but the way that they talk, he says that they don't verbalize anything. It's some form of telepathy. He can tell what they're saying and they understand him back and forth. I'm like, okay, well, that's a new story for my book, for my notes. Like,
that is really interesting because the concept, especially of that telepathy, we speak in this reality because we have to use vocal cords. We have to use our lungs. We have to compress air, right? Those are the things we have to do. You don't have to do that as energy. But the energy itself as consciousness can also create a reality that looks exactly like this reality. That's where we get like lucid dreaming. And I have a lot of people who are deceased who come to me in dreams. That is a key thing about me that I've always had. I've had that since I've probably had that 30 years. I've always been able to dream about people who were deceased. And I feel that when we dream and we're asleep, some of us, not all of us, some of us dream and some of us don't, but we leave and we go somewhere else. And in that other realm, it's almost like they get to come in to that realm and we also get to go into that realm. And that's where we can communicate, but you don't communicate with air because you're not breathing air. So what's really interesting and what I describe to a lot of people is that our brain is like the Wi-Fi router of this reality. And it's not the internet, but it allows you to go out to the internet. So it allows you to experience this reality. And then it also allows your consciousness to go into other, like to escape for a little bit. And it'll keep your body alive. Because
it's like astral projection, I guess, kind of like that's the best way, like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Astral projection. It's exactly like that. Now,
and that's what's so interesting about it, because that wasn't really our intentions, you know, with psilocybin, with LSD, with ketamine, DMT. when the brain is actually, or the body is actually physically experiencing that psychedelic state, whether it's dissociative or we're having that so-called trip, that's when our brain is making more neurons. It kind of helps our default mode network, and we're creating new pathways and stuff. So what these medicines do is they find a new way for us to problem solve, for us to interpret, for us to cope with things. So when patients tell me, oh, well, I saw this person, and sometimes I tell them, I don't always tell them. I don't really feel that there's the need for me to put stuff on them or let them know or give them more things to think about, because they absolutely come to us at work to unload all this baggage and trauma, and they kind of leave it there. We kind of absorb that off of them to help them, and they leave a little bit lighter, but they do tell us sometimes. And in the instance where the woman had found her daughter that had committed suicide, I told her, I'm like, there was a light by you. She's like, oh, yes, I know. That was my daughter. She comes when I come here because she knows I'm sad and I miss her. And she tells me that everything's going to be okay. And I'm just like, okay. I don't question it anymore. I'm just like, that's so if that's what works for them,
Once the person is cleared to do the treatment, how often are they allowed to go?
Usually, how we do it at one of the main centers where I focus most of my time, because I bounce around at different ketamine clinics to help them.
Okay.
Two times a week for 3 weeks, so a total of 6. Or in the period of 2 weeks, you can come in like Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then that's the maximum that you can come. And then once you complete that induction series, that series of 6, then it's once every 3 or 4 weeks, kind of how people would be microdosing with mushrooms, except they come in for their boost. We call it like a booster. That's their maintenance session to make sure that it's still in their senses, coded in their brain, the receptors, that it's good.
Interesting. Okay. So you had to take it, you did essentially your own experiment with it, right? To take it to try to see what they were going through, or? I had to do it as part of my job when I first started at this ketamine clinic, so that we can put ourselves in a patient's shoes. Right. That way nothing they say is weird to us or random or causes us to concern. That way we can kind of put ourselves in their shoes to see how it feels. And then we can develop that empathy for them to help them when they're coming in for their treatments and stuff. And I think 1,000%, like it's a very valuable thing to do, especially when you're working with people that have this kind of trauma. Sure. Emotional trauma, sexual trauma. So going along with that then, so other workers as well as you, they've also gone through ketamine.
Correct.
Okay. So what have they also experienced? Have they seen these things that you're seeing on the camera? My
coworkers have seen all these on camera because we have it on our computer at our desk. There's usually 4 of us there monitoring one person at a time. And then we also have like a big flat screen TV. I'd say it's like a 60, 70 inch in our room with us. And we're watching in case we're typing, notes or something, progress notes. Then we can always look up at the camera at the TV and see what's going on in the room. So the thing with the lights and the orbs, several people see this at the same time. So we're just like, oh, look, she has orbs. Like, that's cool.
Wow.
But yeah, it's definitely different.
Okay. So then I'm going to take it a little step further then. Have you ever had any kind of, not on camera, but something that you've seen when you're not on ketamine, right? But has anything happened in the facility? Meaning, has there been any kind of paranormal activity that's happened?
Not in the facility itself.
Okay.
We like I said, we go in and we let them know what to expect for people that are new, and even the ones that come back repeatedly after that. We're like, okay, as it happened before, this is going to take this long to kick in and stuff. But I have noticed particularly with the vets that come in with combat trauma, or they've just been deployed somewhere and did something for their job. They have this dart that they carry with them. Really? So when I initiate their treatment, I'm in the room, the lights are off, so I'll go in for their shot. They get 2 shots. When I go in for the second one, I remember going in one time and there was something in the corner, felt like a person. Really? And the person in the chair saw it too, but they were on ketamine. Like, I could tell the fear in their face. And I felt kind of like I was being watched. And I'm like, there's nobody in here. It's just me and the patient. I mean, of course, I'm being watched on camera, but it was like a shadow or something just in the corner that just felt really dark, like it was there to cause harm or something. It was very uncomfortable.
Interesting. Okay, that is interesting. So a lot of that is, you said, was experienced with the vets with PTSD from wars, essentially.
Correct. Yes.
And I've talked about, shadows before, and I don't always consider shadows to always be, 100% negative, because sometimes we see the energy as a shadow, essentially. And sometimes people see it as more of a lighter, maybe a mist, a light. I mean, there's so many different things that they see it as. And I think that the energy itself is, it's how the energy knows to form itself. Does that make sense into this reality? It's almost like they all have different traits to them and different levels of experience. So a couple things, and I know I don't want to take up a bunch of time. Going back to that cardiologist, that's somebody who's scientifically aware of what's happening, right? He realizes that when he does this, there's two children that come in and kind of like play with him or kind of have fun with it, or, they're just playful, right? And that's kind of how you were, okay. They claim to be his great-grandchildren, I'm sorry. And does he feel that they're going to be in the future, or that they have been in the past? And as a follow-up question to that, does this almost in a way help us understand reincarnation?
Sure. I totally believe in reincarnation. There's just so many scientific things that have been studied around that, and data that's been gathered. Like I said, I try to go into everything as a skeptic, and the data is just there, so I don't question it.
Right.
For him, I think it was the grandchildren that he was going to have, so they were future descendants of his, and he just knows, like, oh, they're here to see me again, and we'll ask him, or one of the nurses will ask him, did they come visit you this time? And he's like, yeah, we talked, but not really talked, because I can't hear what they're saying, but we visited, like we had a visit, and it's almost every single time. And he's, like I said, he's been there 10 or 11 times already, and that's almost every time. So I don't know that it's a fluke, or maybe it caught him by surprise as much as it caught us by surprise in the way that he described it.
And I think what's important for the audience to understand as they're listening to this or watching it is the reason why I bring this up, and the reason why I look at it very seriously, is because this is a doctor who is usually very scientific in thought process, because he has to be. And so if he's trying to figure this out, he's going to be looking at, like, I might be hallucinating. I might be this. But as the repetition comes up and it's the same entities coming in, I look at it one of two ways. Either in his past life, he was a great-grandfather to those entities, and now they're coming into this life where he's at. And then on the other part of things, he's in this life, and they're about to be his great-grandchildren in the future. Either way we look at it, it's reincarnation. Either way.
Correct.
And so all that means to me is that these entities know that they're going to be doing something coming up, or they have already done something, and he is now into his future self. That leads me to believe in this thing that people talk about, where the afterlife has these contracts, and it's almost like saying, what life you're going to go into, and you kind of know how it's going to play out. But of course, dimensions can split. You can take the job in California or the job in New York, Sure. And when you take one or the other, you actually split the dimensions to where you've done both, like parallel dimensions, like multidimensional stuff. And I talk a lot about that because I believe in that. But at the same time, some people say that there are contracts prior to this life that we sign, essentially, in that spirit realm. And we know that we're coming here for a certain purpose. Some people believe that. And I understand that people who are watching, some won't believe it and some will. But what this lends me to believe is that if they know they're going to be part of his future lineage, right, then it's almost like there is a contract. There's something that's bounding them to him, if that makes sense.
Like it's already predetermined for him.
It's predetermined, yeah. Which is very interesting to me. And it should be interesting for a lot of people listening and watching, because we have to take this as a scientific we have to look at this as a scientific analysis. Like it has to take we have to take the data, and the data has to say, you know, this is a gentleman who is not, I'm assuming he's not somebody who always takes hallucinogenic drugs on a daily basis, right? He's not somebody
he never did in his life.
There you go.
We always ask everybody, that way we can kind of say like, oh, this is how it's going to come on. This is how you can tell that ketamine's creeping on. And he's like, nope, never smoked cannabis, never tried anything. He's like, never done it.
And he's a cardiologist. That's a very tough practice to be in, right? That is very strenuous, very stressful. It takes a lot of schooling to go through that. It takes a lot of professional work ethic as well too. So there's a lot of things that I look at when I hear that story, and then he has this experience that he can't explain, but then he has it not only once, but over and over again, where he's meeting with these kids. That's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, it's different. It's completely changed my whole perception of things. You know, I've tried different psychedelics in the past. I myself had a suicide issue. I had like out of body experience. I didn't see a tunnel. I didn't see a light. I pretty much hovered over my body. I saw that my husband was there. My family was there. You know, I knew I just felt like it wasn't time for me to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. I could see the hospital. I could see the gurney. I could see the people around trying to resuscitate me, trying to shock me. And then next thing I know, I'm back in my body. I've suffered with depression, anxiety for a long time, since a child. You know, I had trauma as a child. And then my husband that I met was real into psychedelics. And he kept telling me, he's like, you're on these medications for depression. You're on these medications for anxiety. Mm-hmm. You know, you're still tightly wound up. It's affecting your body. So most of these medications, they're bad for your liver. You just need to try psilocybin and just try it with me. And I was just like, no, I don't do drugs. You know, I've been a healthcare worker for a long time, almost 20 years now. I'm like, I don't do drugs. And he just laughed. He's like, it's not drugs. So finally, I think like maybe 6 years after he first, was telling me about it, I just gave him like, okay, let's try psilocybin mushrooms. And it just like changed my life. I came out of it with a different perception, how everything is interconnected with things. Mm-hmm. The way that we speak, talk, behave definitely affects other people. It made me more aware to be conscious of others. So I was like, okay, well, if I felt like this the one time, let's try this. Let's go with this. You know, I can create my own decision out of this if I want to persist with it or not. And we did several sessions of psilocybin. Mm-hmm. And I was able to get off my medications. I haven't been back on my medications since, and that was already like 10, 12 years ago.
I want to thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. You know, we talk about a lot of crazy stuff here. So if you want to hear more, just like and subscribe to the channel. It would really help us out a lot. And plus, if you have a crazy story, whether it be an alien abduction, near-death experience, or something of the paranormal, or a glitch in the matrix, please let us know. Share it in the comments. We'd love to have you on the show.